And you are listening to Arnie Amber, WMBS Radio, Uniontown. We're going to have fun.
Yes, we are, and I'd like to welcome Miss Dawn Wells with me. Now, do you have the alter ego of Marianne Summers, or are you just Dawn Wells?
I think I'm all wrapped up into one. I think because, when the show started, everybody had a title. There was a movie star, millionaires, professors, but Marianne was just a girl from Kansas. So I think a lot of me is in that character. I think I brought a lot of myself to her, and I was raised with Marianne values, so we're kind of the same. I actually grew up in Reno, Nevada, the Sinful City, but other than that, there is a similarity.
Well, Marianne worked at the Winfield General Store, is that correct? Just a clerk?
I'm not really sure. There's been 3 or 4. Some said she was a secretary. Some said she was a school teacher. I don't think it was ever really defined.
Okay, because on episode 1, which I think was a pilot, which was just happened to be on TV on Wednesday night on MeTV, it said that you worked at the Winfield General Store.
Now, was that with this original cast, or was it with the other cast?
No, this was the with you and Russell Johnson and Tina Louise, the first shipwrecked scene.
So, my gosh, I didn't even remember that. And it said I worked in the general store?
Yes, Winfield General Store.
Who told you that? I mean, we were all in a group talking? It's not in the song,
No, this
right?
was on the radio announcer made the announcement when they were talking about all of the people who were on the shipwreck.
Oh, my gosh. Well, thank you so much. I've only been doing this for 50 years, and I just discovered that.
Yeah, it just so happened I got to see it on MeTV Wednesday night.
Well, I'm glad to know now, finally.
We have a bunch of questions. The hardest question, you'll forgive me for asking, but this is one I've wondered about for many, many years. 3-hour tour, how did you get all of the different clothing items on ship?
Well, you must remember that this is fantasy to begin with. But I would say that the Howells had everything they ever wanted with them. They would take that with them. So I'm sure that a lot of Mrs. Howell's clothes were made over because Marianne could do that. Ginger probably came with all her gowns. Marianne probably came with a small suitcase. Professor knew he was going to be there for a while. I don't know. I mean, I don't even know how we got a coconut cream pie without a cow.
Well, that's a good using coconut milk from Contented Coconuts.
I guess so.
But, yeah, it's always the big question. On a 3-hour tour, you usually just take yourself. How would you happen to have all the different clothes, especially all the different gowns and so on?
Well, I think we might have been island hopping. I think the professor was going to stay for a while for the flora and the fauna. And I don't know. I guess if you could buy somebody surfs on and surfs off and doesn't know where he is, I guess you could buy the clothes. I don't know.
Well,
good.
Go ahead.
I just said that's a good question.
Well, that was the one that's been bothering me the most for the 50 years that Gilligan's been on TV. Now,
I'm sure you're not the only one.
Now, would you, if you would have been maybe 5 or 6 years later, do you think that you would have been the first Farrah Fawcett as far as the posters and so on?
Oh, I don't know. That's interesting because there weren't any posters. And I imagine that with being the first shorts on television, there would have been a poster made. I imagine. Don't know. We were just a little bit ahead. They were, after us. We were ahead of time, I guess.
Well, did you run into any trouble with the censors? Because I know at that time Barbara Eden was doing I Dream of Jeannie and they wouldn't show her navel, but yet here you are in short shorts. Did you have any problems?
Navel either. I designed the shorts. I helped design them where there was a little rise that came up over my tummy, a little slope of the shorts, and then they dipped down on the sides of the waist just to cover my navel. Sometimes when I was walking, you'd see it, and Sherwood would always laugh. He'd say, between Tina's cleavage and Dawn's navel, the censors had me back and forth on the set 3 or 4 times a day.
Did you ever think that when you started 50 years ago that it would still be running on reruns, or that it would have such an effect on TV as it did?
Well, way back then, reruns hardly didn't exist. They were just beginning. That's why we didn't get any residuals. So I don't think we had any concept. Sherwood Schwartz said at the beginning, "It's in black and white. We're not going to get any reruns in this." And then when we went to color, I think that was a big jump. But I don't think we're the longest running show in the history of television syndication and reruns. We've never been off the air since 1964. We are somewhere in the world in another language at some point, and it's amazing to me. But there's no dating it. There's no cars or clothes. Leave It to Beaver told you what year it was. Farrah Fawcett told you what year it was. You don't know when it was. We're all in the same clothes. You know, you can't tell. And a new crop of kids come up every year thinking, oh, it's now happening. So he was pretty smart, that Mr. Schwartz.
Well, do you think that if the show wouldn't have been started in '64, that it would have taken off the way that it did? If it was an '80s or '90s or even a show today, that it would have made it?
Oh, I think the world has changed so much. I don't think so. Everybody was trying to be a little ahead of time. I think what's made it last so long is it's just iconic. There's some brilliant comedy. The physical comedy between Ellen and Bob and with Jim is really brilliant. Nowadays, it's all wit. Nowadays, you have an audience. You can't do the things we did with an audience. You can't fall out of trees and swim in the lagoon and do all of those things. Now it's all with an audience, which is wonderful. I love an audience when you're doing comedy because you know the timing. I watched a couple tapings of 2.5 Men, and they do it with the audience once, and the audience would laugh, and then they come and they all whisper and they do a different joke, and the audience would laugh again, and then they have the decision which take they're going to use. They didn't do that with us. We were making a movie, really. I mean, we were filming with film. So it was very different, and I just think Bob Denver was a genius. He just became that character, and he never rehearsed. It just came out of him, you know. It was a very unique show. It's very slapstick, and it's very classic slapstick comedy, but there's a reason it survived. And, of course, I think Seven Misfits trying to get along is probably what the world is today anyway. So it obviously has something. It makes everybody smile, everybody happy, a new crop of kids. Y'all identified with one of the characters. Which girlfriend would be yours, Marianne or Ginger? Why didn't the professor want to get off the island? Wasn't he smart enough to build a boat? I mean, it's kind of fun. It's Robinson Crusoe. Everybody takes part.
Well, you mentioned the professor, and we unfortunately lost him earlier this week. You two were awfully close, weren't you?
Very close, and my heart breaks. He was such a lovely man, and I feel so for his dear wife, Connie, and his daughter. He was a rare being. He was kind and gentle and very funny. He had a great sense of humor. He was funnier than everybody put together on the set. And serious about what he did, and he just was a very special man. And we were, of course, and the rest, you know, for the first season with that billing, so we still would send each other cards, love the rest. I adored him. I'm writing a book that's coming out in the fall, and he wrote my foreword just about 6 months ago, so I'm sorry I didn't get to say goodbye. Well,
you mentioned the book. It was supposed to come out earlier, wasn't it? But it's been postponed till September to...
I've kind of timed it for September because I know this is the year, our 50th year, 2014. But we went on the air in September 25th or something, 2014. And I just thought 50 years ago. So I thought it would be fun to release it in September. The publishers have more of a choice of that than I do. They might have wanted it to be a summer read. I don't know. I'm having a wonderful time writing it. I laugh all the time. I talk to myself when I'm writing. I mean, and you'll see that when you read it.
Well, you have written another book, too. Tell us about the cookbook.
Well, and I'm going to re-release that, too. My mother and I put together 3 generations of family. She wrote all the recipes by hand. We had to test everything. They don't print cookbooks unless they've tried it. So we spent quite a little time, and she was about 91 when she did it with me. So I thought, well, it's our 50th year. I think I'll take the 50 best recipes out of it and put them in the front, and maybe 5 or 6 or 10 more that I've discovered since then, and reissue it because we're sold out. And it's some wonderful pictures and little stories in it. So I'm going to be doing that too as soon as I finish this one.
Yeah, we are talking with Miss Dawn Wells, Marianne Summers from Gilligan's Island. And how long were you actually on Gilligan's Island? 3 years?
3 years, 39 episodes.
And
that's
then,
amazing, though. You know, you're lucky if you get 15 episodes a year now.
And how many movies were made after that?
There were one with the rescue, and then the Howells built a resort, and then the Globetrotters came on it. So there were 3 that were produced, and then I produced a movie of the week for CBS called Surviving Gilligan's Island, which is the highest-rated film they've had forever. So there really have been 4 aftermaths, so to speak.
Now, do you have a favorite episode of the ones that you did?
Yes and no. I mean, I think we all love the dream sequences. I loved my little Eliza Doolittle character I got to play, and I thought the Hamlet was very clever. And then we loved the guest stars of Ronway Feldman, Hans Conried, and Don Rickles, and those things were kind of fun because it was just a little deviation from what we did every day.
And you actually got to sing on the show, too. Tell us about the episode with the honeybees.
I tell you, it wasn't my voice. If you want to hear my voice, it's when I was doing I Want to Be Loved by You. I can't sing. I can't carry a tune. And about one of the first 3 or 4 episodes we ever did, the group was singing For He Is Jolly Good Fellow, and Sherwood came up to me afterwards. He said, "You're getting everybody off key." I said, "I know. I was kicked out of choir." So when we did the honeybees, they dubbed me. Somebody did my lip syncing, and I'll tell you a funny story. I did a movie called Winterhawk, which was just fabulous at the foot of the beautiful Rocky Mountains and gorgeous stuff, and I played a missionary, and we shot on location in the snow and riding horseback over the mountains, and we had one of the scenes where I was leading my missionary group of young people in the valley singing Amazing Grace. It was about the 3rd week into the film, and the director said to me, "Okay, now I want you to stand and you lead this group in Amazing Grace." And I said, "Charlie, I can't sing." He said, "Oh, anybody can sing." I said, "Charlie, I can't sing." So we started, and he said, "Oh, you're right." So here we are in the middle of a field. There's no way to take me in and dub somebody. So I have a long skirt on. I'm a missionary in the 1800s. So he puts a girl, has me spread my legs a little bit, puts the girl sitting on the ground with my skirt over her. I am mouthing the words, and she is singing Amazing Grace through my skirt.
That is a great story.
Magic of a movie.
Now, was there a particular character that you like to work with more than any other, whether it be the Professor or Bob Denver or Alan Hill? Do you have a favorite one of the characters?
I think Gilligan was always a wonderful comedy. It was always a comedy take between us or whatever he was doing. There was more seriousness with the Professor. No, I think it was all kind of equal because everybody's character was fun. You interacted with each of them in your own way, but Marianne was really the moral compass, I think, of the show. She was sort of the rudder. She was the most sensible. So you just kind of spread me around to be the mediator or the cheerleader or the cook or the laundress, whatever they could use me for.
Now, was there a rivalry between you and Tina Louise?
No, and the public makes that out. It's kind of funny. I guess you always have a choice between the brunette and the blonde or the tall guy and the short guy or whatever. The sex symbol and the girl next door. And it gave, Sherwood was pretty smart. It gave, every man in the world a choice. You were either one or the other, most likely, so it gave everybody an opportunity of choosing. I have a T-shirt that my fan club made, and it's a ballot. And on the front, it's a ballot where you can check off Marianne or Ginger, and then on the back it says The Ultimate Dilemma. And I was in, you can say Marianne or Ginger in Beijing and they get it. But you don't have to even say what the show is. Now it's a comparison. I've had a couple of very funny things. There's a couple of beer companies, and one of them is got ginger in it. And on the little side on the label it says, "And we apologize to Marianne." And there's a cookie store in New York that I was doing a play there last year, and my little assistant came out. She said, "I just bought you a dozen of these cookies." And I said, "What are they?" She said, "It's Elena's or something is the name of the shop, and the cookies are all in great big clear cookie jars." And it says, "A Jealous Marianne" is the title of this cookie, and it's a ginger snap.
Well, that's good, too.
Yeah, it's good. It just kind of goes on, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Now, I understand that there was just a new song written about Marianne. Can you tell us about it?
I don't know that. Was there?
Well, from what I have read, there was a group who came out and did a song about you. In fact, I think Harlan's the one who sent me the details about that. I
had a birthday party, and and a group, gosh, I can't think of their name all of a sudden, had a song called Marianne, but they already had it, and it's kind of cute. It says something about Marianne. I'm gray, will you forgive me, or something. I've been your fan for so long now, I've turned gray. Country Gentleman is their name, and it's bluegrass, and if that's the one, they did that for my birthday party.
Okay.
I didn't know anybody else knew about it, but it's just great. It's really a cute song.
And your birthday was, what, a couple weeks ago?
October.
Okay. Well, not that far back.
Oh, and I had a party, and the party was so successful, my partner gave me a party in the Virginia